All right, let's dive right into this. Look, today we're painting a completely new, vivid picture of exactly how education and technology are colliding. We're going to be walking through a really powerful framework drawn from the insights of Peter Sigurdsson, who is an instructor right out there on the front lines of tech education, on how we can reclaim student agency in the age of AI. Think of this explainer as your ultimate, high-energy guide to just completely flipping the traditional classroom dynamic on its head. We're moving way past all that fear and alarmism about AI. Instead, we're grabbing hold of a truly revolutionary solution. We're going to learn exactly how to set things up so that students master a subject by actually teaching the AI. So get ready, because we're about to completely change the way you look at learning. You know, past generations learned in vibrant Technicolor by actually tinkering. I mean, they were wrestling with raw materials and messy machine shops, building those classic science fair projects, wiring up electronics kits. They were active agents, forging their own understanding through trial, error, and just hands-on creation. But contrast that with what we're seeing today. It's kind of this terrifying fall into gray passivity. You've got students slumped in beanbags, just blindly scrolling and absorbing AI-generated summaries. They're treating knowledge not as something you build with your own two hands, but just as endless content to ingest. We've literally traded the messy, brilliant friction of making things for this sterile, effortless consumption of data. And look, this passive consumption, it creates what we call hollow reads. Basically, empty vessels conditioned by an instructionist model to just sit there and receive information, rather than actively doing the work. And here's the dangerous part. When we allow machines to do all the cognitive heavy lifting, like when the AI writes the essay or solves the math problem without the student even breaking a mental sweat, their minds literally begin to atrophy. We absolutely cannot let our students become hollow reeds. We have got to put that friction, that effort, and that glorious struggle right back into their hands. To put this into perspective, here's a stat that's going to blow your mind. For the entire 20th century, IQ scores consistently went up. It was famous. It was called the Flynn effect. But right around 2010, which, not coincidentally, is the exact moment we started handing over our cognitive heavy lifting to ubiquitous screens, that trend violently reversed in a lot of developed nations. Based on analyses tied to PISA results and studies by researchers like Brotzberg and Rochberg, we're now seeing measurable drops in fluid intelligence. We're talking decreased working memory, reduced effortful reasoning, and just totally fragmented attention spans. This cognitive outsourcing is having a real, measurable, and honestly negative impact. But hey, there is a way out. And actually, the blueprint for it comes straight from the past. In his 1980 book, Mindstorms, mathematician Seymour Papert unveiled this prophetic revelation. He said, "The computer is being used to program the child. In my vision, the child programs the computer. And in teaching the computer how to think, the child begins to explore how they think themselves." Now, back in the 60s at MIT, Papert helped create Logo. It was his programming language where kids commanded a digital turtle to draw shapes. And get this, when a kid wrote code and the turtle drew a crooked square, it wasn't a failure, it was a bug. And debugging that crooked square was honest, iterative learning. The child was the teacher, the builder, the master of the machine. Section 2, Flipping the AI Script, the Gospel of Action. Let's get right into it. So just like programming that 1960s turtle, Workflow 1 treats the AI as the tutee. This is an absolute game changer. The student actively constructs knowledge by teaching a core concept to the AI. First off, the student prepares a lesson plan or an initial prompt to explain the ideas simply. Second, they literally teach the AI through a conversation, and then they test it with examples or problems to see if it actually understood what they taught. Finally, and guys, this is where the magic really happens. The student documents where the AI makes errors or hallucinates. They have to debug their own explanation, iterate their prompts, and refine the lesson. They're building articulation, precision, and ultimate metacognition. Now, you might be wondering, how do we actually grade this? Well, we assess the messy, brilliant process, not just the perfectly polished final output. We evaluate the clarity of their initial explanation. We look at their sharp eye in detecting AI hallucinations, and how well they refined their prompts and debugged their own teaching. It's exactly like how Papert's turtle taught debugging. The AI is doing the exact same thing here. You're grading their ability to transfer knowledge. Okay, moving on to our next workflow, which builds right on that active foundation. We call this the collaborative builder. Here, the student is no longer a passive consumer. They're the lead architect, the boss, commanding a digital junior partner. Step 1, the student defines the project requirements and actually creates the rubric. Step 2, they They prompt the AI for drafts or code, but they have to fiercely critique it, refine it, and integrate it, always owning the final decisions. Step 3, they train the AI on domain edge cases. Like Peter Sigurdsson actually uses this in his tech classes. He has students train the AI on the specific, highly complex nuances of Toronto real estate data. The student remains the undisputed leader, guiding the machine. So for this collaborative build, your grading rubric completely shifts. You're now evaluating their leadership and their critical thinking. You assess the sophistication of their prompt engineering, the quality of that rubric the student defined themselves, and the depth of the critique they provided back to their AI junior partner. And finally, you look at the quality of the final artifact that is directly attributable to the student's guidance. This brilliantly mirrors real-world AI-augmented work while keeping the cognitive heavy lifting squarely inside the student's mind. All right, workflow 3, reviving the garden walk. Picture this. Back in 15th century Cambridge, degrees weren't handed out based on multiple choice tests. Not at all. Students engaged in fierce oral examinations, defending their ideas while literally walking around a garden with a professor. So ask yourself, are today's students capable of that kind of profound Socratic inquiry, or are they just completely paralyzed by multiple choice helplessness? Honestly, when asked to generate deep questions today, many students just freeze up. We have got to break that paralysis. Classical, interactive learning is the absolute antidote to modern passive consumption. So, here's how we actually bring that classical inquiry back. Step 1. The student must create 5 to 10 high-quality questions spanning knowledge, application, analysis, and synthesis. Step 2. They engage the AI in an extended conversation using those questions, deliberately pressing the AI on its weaknesses and debating with it. Step 3, the student evaluates the AI's responses to identify massive gaps in their own understanding. In this workflow, the AI serves as this tireless, incredibly patient sparring partner for a vivid intellectual boxing match. When you're evaluating this modern garden walk, true comprehension is found in their question depth. Like, are they asking high-level synthesis questions? It's also found in their tenacity and dialogue management. Do they have the ability to actually press the AI in conversation and not just blindly accept its first answer? And most importantly, their self-reflection. Can they accurately identify their own personal learning gaps after that intellectual sparring? Success here means the student has completely rebuilt the classical skill of inquiry. Look, this is basically a call to arms for every educator and parent watching. Reclaim student agency starting this Monday. We have to choose action over alarm. Don't be afraid of the technology. Just invert the flow of how it's used. Limit the unguided screen time, emphasize making, and treat the AI as a mirror for the student's mind, not a replacement for it. Commit to implementing just one of these 3 workflows next week. Just one. If you do, you will literally watch those passive hollow reads transform back into active builders right before your eyes. That 1960s turtle is waiting, and so are today's incredibly powerful AIs. Let's get our students teaching again, because ultimately, you really have to ask yourself a profound question. In your classroom, who is programming who? Is the machine programming the child, or will you empower the child to program the machine?